need you to bear with me here. This is a bloody boring subject, and that's not a good way to start a video. It's always, look, as football fans, we find certain subjects more interesting and juicy than others. I'll give you an example. Doing this YouTube video malarkey stuff, I could do today a transfer rumours video, and it would probably get about 5,000 to 6,000 views. People are interested in it as a subject matter. We have a way of looking back. Well, anybody can. You can see what the figures were the past couple of days. You think, yeah, that video did well, that video did not so well. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments. Look, they're all interaction, but I think the real barometer of whether a subject is interesting is looking at the figures and what they've done. People will often say, oh, I don't know why you're doing these transfer rounds up, I'm not going to sign anyone, yet people always go and watch them. And I like a bit of transfer gossip as well. Videos like the ones I'm going to do now don't get much traction, to be honest with you, because it's boring. It's talking about finances, it's talking about money. It's not interesting, but this particular one is really, really important to West Ham. And the more I've looked at it, the more I've scratched below the surface, thinking actually could be really impact West Ham, could really impact football, because it's more of the clubs being separated from one another. It's more of the rich getting richer and that sort of thing. More of the disparity between the top clubs and the bottom clubs, and even the ones in the middle and the bottom clubs. And what it is, it's about UEFA financial fair play. And I want to talk about how it impacts West Ham, how it impacts West Ham's wages, how it impacts West Ham offering players new contracts, and how it impacts West Ham's ability to sign players. So let me cut to the chase. UEFA have implemented a new financial fair play system whereby a club can only spend 70% of its turnover, its annual turnover, on wages, transfer fees and agents' fees. What does that look like for West Ham? What does that mean? Because again, they're just figures. They're figures that when you start talking too much in numbers, look, I get bored myself, quite frankly. What does that actually mean for West Ham? Well, I'll tell you what it means. Last year, on a normal season, West Ham, our turnover is about 190 million. This season's been a really good season. We've done well in the Europa League. We've had lots of televised games, which have been on a Sunday. Because we play Thursday, Sunday, more games get televised on Sunday. We've had more Sky money. We've had more money from UEFA. Basically, this season, we've earned about 200, our turnover, 230 million, something like that. We've done about £40 million better. Great. What does that mean, 70% of that sort of figure? Well, 70% of that sort of figure, and it's hard to divvy it up exactly because you don't know exactly what we've earned, but it's about 160, 170 million. Okay? Now, my question later on is going to be, where does that other money go? Because I think we might be in a position within 3 years' time where we're looking at some pretty hefty and big dividends paid out to shareholders and owners at football clubs, not just at West Ham, which is going to bring well, that is going to be very, very interesting indeed. I'll tell you now, if we start to see a situation where a club is not doing well and directors and whatnot are being paid out, 10, 15 million to shareholders being paid out 10, 15 million pounds. Anyway, we'll leave that to one side for the moment, right? But let's talk about wages for a second. West Ham's wages at the moment are about 72 million. And it's always hard to find out exactly what they are, but that's about right. And the funny thing is, that puts us, in terms of the spend table, about 7th. So pretty much what we spend on wages is where it correlates with where you finish in the league. Not precisely, because Everton are near the bottom. Everton have spent loads, and obviously Manchester United spend loads, and they may finish the season below us. But roughly it sort of translates and works out that way. The reason this, I think, is pertinent at the moment is because there's been talk that we are about to offer Jarrod Bowen a new contract. He's on about £60,000 a week, apparently. We're going to double it to 120 grand a week, take him in line with our highest earner, which is Kurt Zouma. There's also been talk recently that what we want to do is give Declan Rice a new deal at £200,000 a week. We've discussed this at length on this channel very, very recently. Here's my point here. Once you start doing that, you start to really get to the point where you're going to start breaking UEFA rules. Because if you've got to also divvy that up and spend on agents' fees, which again we spend about 8 to 10 million a season on agents' fees, and your transfer kitty, then you really start having to cut your cloth. Now, I've got no love for Newcastle. I really don't. I really don't. Actually, I quite like the fans. My nan was a Geordie. In fact, my uncle supports Newcastle. I still got family up there. It's not Newcastle, the area fans. I don't like the ownership. I don't like it at all for reasons I've already described. So I've got no particular reason to support and stick up for Newcastle. But if they are honestly minted and their owners can afford it, surely they should be able to spend what they want. This is how Man City got to where they are. This is how Chelsea got to where they are. You can certainly understand the attraction of buying Chelsea, and my word, that's looking like even more of a mess now, isn't it? By investors, because if what's going to happen is in 2023 they can only spend 70% of their income, or 70% of their turnover, then that means 30% is going to go somewhere else. Now, a big turnover like Chelsea have got, that is big money for shareholders, big dividends. It makes me really worried about the reasoning behind the decision making. Now, UEFA say decision making is about sustainability. They're not even pretending that it's a level playing field anymore. It's not. It's about clubs not going bust. Now, there are some loopholes to this. I think you're over 3 seasons you're allowed to lose 60 million, and they will allow you to lose another 10 million if they deem your club to be in good financial health. However, this is small change, because if you look at it, and if what we want to do is move up to the next level, and the level at the moment is pretty good, but even if we were to stay exactly the same, as good as we are now, we still have to put our wage bill up. There's no benefit to us. We've already got Declan Rice. But putting his wages up is a benefit to Declan. It's not a benefit to us. We already have Jarrod Bowen. The benefit is to Jarrod Bowen. Now, don't get me wrong. I think both those should be offered new contracts. But for us to stay the same, we have to spend more money. For us to improve, then that's a bit of an issue, because it's going to start taking us up. Now, I actually think that what we're actually going to need to do is probably, to move up to the next level, is start to increase our wage bill, probably to closer to the 85 million. To put it into perspective, Tottenham is 100 million a season, their wage bill, 100 million a season. So to us to be able to just claw back and start to get near to them, it needs to be about 85. Can our turnover handle it? Yes, it seems our turnover can, particularly if we've got no debt. However, if you are going to do that, if you're bringing more players in, you're going to spend more on agents' fees. So let's just take that 85 million, let's stick another 10 million on top of it, take it to 95 million. Sorry, I know I'm losing you now, but the point I'm trying to make is, by the time you finish doing all that, it doesn't leave an awful lot for transfers each season. It really doesn't. So I think it's going to be really difficult for West Ham to spend loads of money. And it's not just West Ham. This is why Newcastle are going to have to spend over the next couple of years, because that's it. They're not going to be able to break that glass ceiling and really challenge Man City. Liverpool is slightly different because they've got a slightly different ownership model. Liverpool probably, under the current ownership model, under the current manager, they'd probably be perfectly fine with these regulations, because they don't spend an awful lot comparatively compared to someone like Manchester United. They're just better run. That's the truth of the matter on that. You look at someone like Aston Villa, and for instance, we want Ollie Watkins. West Ham want Ollie Watkins. It's not just a case of Aston Villa turning around and saying, well, you can't have Ollie Watkins, we're keeping him. Money talks in this game. I don't know what wages he was on when he signed from Brentford. I'm guessing it wouldn't have been hundreds of thousands. I'm guessing it was probably about 50, 60,000. Now, if what you're dealing with is somebody who's performing in the Premier League, is down in England International, there's no way he's signing a new deal for that money. Basically, I would imagine Aston Villa are going to have to put him on in excess of £100,000 a week, which causes problems for them. They can't do all of that and sign Coutinho permanently and do all the things that Steven Gerrard obviously has in mind that he wants to do. I mean, do you think they've signed Dina? That's not cheap wages either. This is really going to throttle a lot of the clubs with ambition, and even relatively minor ambition. I don't mean that as an insult to Aston Villa. I quite like what they're doing, to be honest with you. I would consider West Ham's to be minor ambition, because we can't really reach for the stars in terms of matching those very, very top clubs. And I do wonder what the future holds really for football if this is going to be the way. I've spoken about it a lot recently, and that's Germany. Because Bayern Munich won their 10th title in a row with over a month to spare. I mean, people look at Borussia Dortmund as people think Dortmund's a big club, and they're quite prestigious on the European stage. Well, they don't win, and they don't win because they haven't got enough money to compete on continentally, if you like, as you've just seen, because Manchester City are about to take their best player. And they certainly can't compete domestically because Bayern Munich have all the money. And I don't know at what point you sort of look at that. And do look at the German league. You've got Bayern Munich, then Borussia Dortmund, and then there's another gap again. I don't know at what point German football starts to tire of that. I mean, they need someone else to win that league. I would think soon. I might be wrong. Maybe, just maybe it'll be palatable after 20 seasons of Bayern Munich winning the league. Maybe 20 seasons in a row. Maybe then there still would be nothing done. I don't know. But my point is, it's not good for competitive football. It's not good for competition. We're lucky. Well, not really. I say lucky. There's a lot of jealousy on the continent. If you go and look back at a lot of the Frankfurt comments, a lot of their comments were not just their joy at putting us out. It was about the Premier League and the Premier League and their money. And I would argue that actually on that it's more the allocation of the TV deal. It's not that basically the Premier League gets more money from overseas rights because the Premier League's more competitive. I just think if you were someone over the other side of the world and you were watching a match, you'd rather watch a Premier League match because you probably don't know the outcome. The same can't be said for the German league, and the reason that's happening is because in this TV deal that we have, we don't give all the money to one club. There's a relatively even distribution, so it keeps things competitive. And that's been successful for us for quite a long time. And because of that, we do have probably 3 or 4 clubs who can win the league. At the moment, only 2. But you know Man United will come back. You know they'll come back into the equation. You suspect Chelsea will, although it's all difficult to tell at the moment. But, and this is why I do think it's important, what we don't particularly want in this country is a situation where Man City win the league 7 or 8 times in a row. So it's always good to mix it up. And to be honest, I don't think they will. I think a large part of their dominance in the league is that Guardiola's a fantastic manager. I think possibly put someone else in there, they might not have won the league. They might not have been able to pip Liverpool this season. I think they will pip Liverpool this season. It's still competitive, though. Liverpool are very close to them. And there's just no one that is close to Bayern Munich in Germany. For West Ham, in terms of getting our wages up, I think we're going to have to watch ourselves really, really carefully. And it's not something that anybody, I think, wants to hear. I think we'd all like to believe that we can go out and we can spend big money. But it's limited. It's finite. Now, don't get me wrong. We can spend this season. We absolutely can have a spend up this season. But we're going to have to watch the wages. Because at the moment, you can still do, for starting next season, you're 90% of turnover. Season thereafter, 80%. Then you're down to 70%. If in 3 years' time, not included this year, you haven't reached 70%, they'll start to take sanctions against you. As I say, I'm a little bit concerned about it. I still think we've got to offer Jarrod Bowen a contract. We'll talk about that in another video, maybe. In one situation from West Ham, it's a little bit debilitating, but it shows the importance of qualifying for Europe year after year. It does make it more likely that the bigger clubs can poach our best players, but by the same token, it does make it more likely that we're able to poach players from smaller clubs than us. Look, we're not in. I'll give you one last example before I go. We're not in. I don't think we're interested in Ivan Toney, so I use him as an example. Or you can use Eriksen as an example. Maybe Eriksen is a Eriksen's not a great one because I'm pretty sure Eriksen's just playing for the love of football and he's probably just grateful and happy to be alive. So let's just leave that one. He'll go wherever he's. I don't think money's a factor. He'll go wherever makes him happiest. But let's take someone like Ivan Toney, for instance. Now, Brentford can put all of the transfer fee they want in terms of trying to stop Ivan Toney from leaving, making it prohibitive, making him an unattractive transfer. But at the end of the day, money does talk. And if what Ivan Toney is on at Brentford is 30 grand a week or something like that. And Ivan Toney's going to want more. He's had a season. He's shown that he can play in the Premier League. Brentford's turnover's not going to be huge. Their wage bill is probably going to be capped. I don't know. I checked a lot of clubs. Didn't check Brentford. I'd be surprised if Brentford's wage bill was over 40 million for this season. I'd be really, really surprised. Brentford aren't in a situation where they can give somebody 100 grand a week plus and put another £6 million a year worth of wages on their wage bill just on one player. They're not going to do it. At some point, money talks. My point, we should be able to go and take players from them, just as clubs can take players from us. It's always been that way, but I just think the disparity is getting more and more and more. I think it might start to impact competitive football. 70% on wages, agents' fees, and transfer fees. So you just take those other two away. So obviously, if your turnover is 150 million, your wages are 70 million, and obviously your agents' fees are 10. Then it's quite easy to calculate what your transfer kitty is going to be. The question does remain, though: where is that other 30% going?